Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, August 4th, 2025. We are here this morning for our work session, and today we'll be discussing the Office of Housing Stability. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. With me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner John Kafalis and Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally. And across the way from us, we have Laura Walker, the Director of Human and Economic Health, Aaliyah Rodriguez, our Housing Stability Manager, and Alexandra Valenti, our Housing Liaison. So welcome, everybody. There are other folks in the audience, so we welcome everyone this morning. And who'll be getting us kicked off? Laura? Thank you, Laura.
Good morning. As mentioned, I am Laura Walker. I serve as the Human and Economic Health Director for the county. And I'm privileged to be here today to talk about one of our newest programs in the Human and Economic Health Service area that has shown some great promise and success so far, so we're excited to talk about that. This is one of 4 quarterly meetings that I get to have with all of you as the Board of County Commissioners to share what's been going on in my service area, new and upcoming things, partnerships that we're proud of, and just give you a sense about the important work that goes on in our service area. Before I hand it over to my housing colleagues here, I did want to mention that recently Aaliyah Rodriguez, our Housing Stability Program Manager, earned a certificate from DU in an inaugural cohort for a program called the Executive Certificate in Affordable Housing. It was really an innovative program. It was competitive to apply and get in. So she has spent the last year back at school, which I don't know that I could do again. But we're really proud of the work that she's done, and it was a really innovative program that I think will give us a lot of insights as we move forward with our housing programming.
Well, congratulations, Aaliyah, and thank you for putting yourself through the rigors of academic life once again, and we appreciate that.
Yes. So I will hand it over to Aaliyah, and she can take it from here with our topic for today. Thanks.
Thank you all. It was a really great program. Highly recommend it. So, all right. Well, good morning and thank you all. I like to begin all of our housing conversations just by grounding us in the Larimer County Housing Strategy Statement that we adopted. As you know, Larimer County acknowledges the growing need for stable housing for all its members, and we address the county's top housing needs through regional coordination, land use code reform, and expansion of housing resources. All of the work in this office is rooted in the belief that housing stability is essential to community well-being, and that local governments play a unique role in strengthening systems and partnerships to make that possible. Today's presentation, I'm going to begin with just an overview of our office's core initiatives, but a bulk of the presentation is going to be diving into our Housing Partners of Larimer program, which is our landlord engagement. So here's some county-wide coordination efforts that are led by our office. Here's just a few examples. The first is our housing needs assessment that just got kicked off. This was in response to Senate Bill 24-174 that passed that mandates that all jurisdictions update or create their first housing needs assessment and a housing action plan by January 2028. And then it's going to be updated every 6 years after that. We have just hired Root Policy as the consultant to complete this assessment. And we have partnered with City of Fort Collins and City of Loveland through this project to ensure that our largest municipalities are pulling from the same report as we take those next steps to create housing action plans. The project was funded by a grant from Department of Local Affairs and financial contributions from those 2 cities as well, from City of Loveland and City of Fort Collins. Another project is Proposition 123 implementation. In April, we hosted a Proposition 123 summit that was open to jurisdictions across Larimer and Weld County. As a reminder, Proposition 123 was approved by Colorado voters in 2022, and it sets aside a portion of state tax revenue to expand affordable housing. In order to access those funds, jurisdictions needed to opt in by committing to increasing their affordable housing stock by 3% each year and also implementing a fast track process. Larimer County opted in and committed to preserving or creating 112 units across the 3-year commitment. The summit was a chance for these jurisdictions across Larimer and Weld to work together, to learn from Department of Local Affairs about tracking and compliance towards meeting these goals, and we're continuing to work with that regional collaborative to just be aligned in our efforts. Lastly, I wanted to highlight our work with the Northern Colorado Continuum of Care, which is our homelessness response system that works across Larimer and Welds County, and working with them to support homelessness planning and system coordination, including a county-wide strategic plan to address homelessness, which is being led by Homeward Alliance. So it's this kind of cross-agency alignment that's essential to helping us move the needle across the region. Next, I wanted to highlight some of our housing grants that are awarded outside of our office. You can see on this graph here how much was awarded in 2025, the impacts in 2024, and then impact year-to-date for 2025 for these programs that focus in on eviction prevention, direct assistance for people who have fallen behind on their rent, eviction prevention legal defense, home share program, weatherization, and the Larimer Home Improvement Program, which is for repairs and emergency grants for low-income homeowners in our unincorporated area of Larimer. So that's just a snapshot of many things happening in our office to help us expand resources and coordinate strategy countywide. I'm excited now to highlight one of our programs that spans across all of our goals, and that's our Housing Partners of Larimer, and I'll pass it over to Lexi Valenti, who's going to dive in. And we'll
Do you mind if we ask some questions?
Sure, we
Looks
can
like
pause for
Commissioner
questions.
Kofalos might have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Appreciate you all being here. A couple of quick questions regarding the Proposition 123 funds generated by a portion of the state sales tax. Is it sales tax?
Yes.
Yeah. How much does that generate per year on average?
I don't have that number.
I'm just
I can
curious,
find it.
because I know that's to be distributed throughout the state. And I don't know if we're talking about $50 million, 40 million, 100 million. But that's one question I have.
Okay.
Not to worry too much. And then regarding the collaboration, trying to get the jurisdictions to work together, I presume we submitted the legislative proposal that came from your shop, combining the incentivizing of cooperation as well as being able to perhaps use mill levy dollars for housing. Were those submitted to CCI? Were you there, and how was it received?
Sure. Thank you for those questions and bringing that up. As far as I know, I'm working with Shane, our legislative coordinator, on that piece, and we'll be meeting later this week to kind of take next steps. So I believe we'll be submitting that to CCAT, not CCI.
Oh, that's right. You're
And
right.
that hasn't happened yet.
No, absolutely, and we both threw out acronyms: CCI, Colorado Counties, Inc., CCAT is the other statewide county association, counties and commissioners.
Colorado counties acting together.
I
believe.
was about to, we're on the same page, good. And then finally, as a reminder, the community housing grants, remind us again, where's that money coming from?
Sure. So currently, the eviction prevention direct assistance and the legal defense was funded through oil and gas revenue that we received last year. The home share program, weatherization, and Larimer Home Improvement Program were funded through, for this year, they were funded through general fund dollars.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks a lot, Aaliyah.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, the commissioners were glad to direct that money to those programs because we valued those. We had received that revenue And we put a lot of it towards air quality monitoring and other quality concerns, and also another priority and value was for us to address these. I really appreciate all this information. I wanted to just also two other points I'd like to make. Commissioner Stevens and I had spent a lot of time in CCAT and CCI at these meetings. Several counties have presented several of these ideas and questions and concerns about Prop 123 and things that need to be maybe adjusted. They're all a little different, but we thought it might be wise, as we're in these meetings for hours and hours and hours, to combine our efforts. So both CCAT and CCI, there was at least 3 proposals, and we had a lot of discussions for a lot of time about how we can kind of merge these efforts together instead of having competing legislative priorities. And so those are going to be discussed and further as we do these district meetings and our CCAT retreat. Those are really valuable conversations, and I know a lot of the information you give us was really valuable for us to have that data for those conversations. So I appreciate that very much and the work that you do. Also, I had a question, Madam Chair, if I can, and I made this, you can put this in a parking lot, but I just want to ask one thing I've got some questions on over the weekend, was mobile home parks and purchasing for residents. A lot of folks know our story about how we invested the $1 million to, as a forgivable loan to Nueva Vida, it's Monday, and I'm, as Laura well knows, I was at the rodeo very late last night. Being the commissioner liaison, working hard. But that was before Prop 123, and it's important work, but I have folks who think there's a massive pot of money for residents to tap in through 123 to be able to buy mobile home parks. And that it's probably an easy process. So I was wondering if we're not talking about today, if we can have a conversation offline, because I'm not sure where that miscommunication's, maybe it's true, but I just don't know if there was a massive pot of money for buying all these mobile home parks. So just something I'd like to explore with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm happy to follow up with that and share the facts around what is available and how it's a little difficult to access.
That's what was my understanding, so thank you for at least validating my initial on-the-spot answer to their question. Thank you.
Well, my feeling is there's probably not a massive pot of money for anything at this point, if you look at the state budget, so. So yeah, we'll make sure that we get those questions answered and let people know that that probably doesn't exist. I had a question about so I appreciate the work that, that we're doing and that Neighbor to Neighbor is doing on eviction protection and stuff like that, but the dollars have dwindled so much, after COVID. Are we seeing evictions spike? Are we, do we have concerns about there being enough dollars in this space? What's the picture look like right now? I almost hate to hear the answer, but please enlighten me anyway.
Sure. As far as data, I can follow up with evictions. They're at the very least continuing. They haven't gone down. I don't think we've seen a spike in Larimer similar to what they're seeing in Denver or statewide, but they're continuing to happen, at least filing of evictions, and funding available for that work has gone down. There is the statewide program that people can apply for, which is a lottery, but it's not specific to our local area, so it's very hard for people to access it. So the work that Neighbor to Neighbor is doing in providing that immediate assistance, they continue to not be able to serve even a fraction of the people who need the help.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. All right, well, yeah, I can't imagine things are going to get better over the next several years because of people losing other benefits as well. I mean, they'll have to compensate for losing food benefits and healthcare benefits. So, we'll just keep an eye on that and see if there's, ways that we can plug in that space if things start to spike, I think, right? All right, well, without further ado, we'll move on to Lexi and her program. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Alexandra Valenti. I do go by Lexi, but you can call me either. I'll respond to either. My title is Housing Liaison. What that really means is I'm the program coordinator for Housing Partners of Larimer, our landlord engagement program. I'm here to tell you a little bit more about it. I do just want to take a moment to introduce Erin Penner. She is behind me. She's our housing resource specialist, and she supports the landlord engagement program as well. Okay, so what we'll cover today, what this program is, we'll kind of start zoomed out and zoom in, what the benefits are, who makes this work possible, so the folks that help us do this work, and then some of our milestones that we've reached so far. Like Aaliyah, I am going to zoom out a little bit first and talk about Larimer County's top housing needs. So the 4 needs that have risen to the top are additional units. So simply put, we just need more inventory. Starter homes for middle income earners. So that looks like purchase prices around $300,000. Increase of diverse housing options. So a lot of times when we think of rental housing, we think of single family homes and multifamily apartment complexes. So trying to locate more rental opportunities that fall in between that on the housing type spectrum. So duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units, cottages. And then the 4th need being expansion of housing resources for older adults, mobile home residents, unhoused community members, and individuals with disabilities. So that's, again, just us trying to get those resources into the hands of our community members that can use them. Our role in supporting these needs is countywide coordination, land use code reform, and funding toward the expansion of those resources. So through our landlord engagement program, we address the need for more units by finding and supporting our naturally occurring affordable housing units. We increase diversity by locating housing that, again, kind of falls in between those housing types. And we expand our funding and resources by supporting local owners and tenants, creating win-win solutions for all of our community members throughout the county. So what is landlord engagement? I'm going to kind of keep it high here before we get into our program. Property engagement is essentially the development of relationships with local property owners so that they feel both inspired and equipped to help create a stronger community. So, we're working with property owners to help them continue the work that they're doing as housing providers. Centralization is a bit of a buzzword right now. What that really looks like is we're trying to centralize all of our rental units into one place. I like to think of it like the multiple listing service for prospective homeowners. When a prospective homeowner goes to buy a home, they can look at all of the options available to them in one place. They can decide what amenities they want to be close to, if it's close to their family, their children's school, their work, and also that very important piece of price point. So understanding what those prices look like. So this empowers tenants, empowers case managers. It also provides overall trends for our property owners as well as to seeing what the region is doing. This work did emerge as a community ask. Case managers were being pulled from their roles to recruit and negotiate with landlords to find those more affordable units or to offer assurances. And landlords didn't have a single point of contact when they ran into challenges. And so you'll actually hear from one today, but depending on the voucher, there are different folks that we talk to or coordinate work being done. And so we get to be that single point of contact for those property owners to figure out where we go next with challenges. So the county listened, and I just want to thank you, commissioners, for approving this program and this work and helping us build stronger housing partnerships throughout the county.
So Commissioner Shannon McNally has a question.
Thank you, Lexi. Appreciate your work. And I had a couple of questions, if I might.
Sure.
Just mostly, I think I know the answers to these, but mostly for our conversation, I know Some groups that approached me last week will probably go back and listen to this, so they're going to ask me these questions. So,
Sure.
can you expand? And I have a couple, Madam Chair, if that would be okay. Could you expand and share with me what starter homes for middle income earners look like, or what would be what we have learned over the decades? What is really what would be an exemplar of what that is? I'm sure there's multiple, a variety of options, but I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's really the price, the sale point for people, is my understanding, is that many folks have savings, they have income, they have years of credit built up. They simply don't have the income earning level to purchase a home in the area that they want to. So the prices are simply out of reach for first-time home buyers. And so what that means is just starter homes, just looking for more opportunities for prospective home buyers to enter the market closer to that $300,000 price sale point.
Great, and that's also whether it's rural or unincorporated versus
Yeah.
Very large urban, that's similar kind of area, opportunities, or is that a little different?
There's a common narrative out there called drive till you qualify, so I think when we talk about this being a need, what we want to do is not force people to have to drive so that they don't have to leave the community that they want to live in, want to work in, want to play in. So having, yes, accessible and affordable, those, careful with that word affordable, but those $300,000 price points throughout the county so that folks can have choice when they're deciding where they want to purchase.
Thank you. And then when you talk about price point, this is kind of a sensitive spot for me, because you purchase the home, but then if you purchase a home in a metro district or one that has extra fees or insurance in certain high-risk wildfire in urban interface areas, it's really kind of the mortgage payment, right? I mean, because you could, and I could show you on, our Budget Explorer, certain homes could have almost double the property taxes versus others in certain areas. So is it really kind of more than just the price point, but what that mortgage payment and the percentage of their, what they, that certain percentage of their income? I was just talking to, and the reason, I'm sorry I got off on a tangent, but I was talking to families whose youth are in college or live in Iceland and other parts, and how the government's kind of, here is what you can afford, and we'll kind of help support, get you through that point. But they know they're not trying to encourage folks to buy something they can't afford, but they can't do. But it was very interesting to hear about these different programs. But I'm mostly concerned about, we can talk about the price point, but a year from now, a lot of these folks are probably like, wow, my mortgage is actually almost double these other taxes and the metros or other fees. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I just read an article that Colorado is in the top 5 states of hidden costs for home ownership. I think that the price point is a big piece of that, but yes, making sure that affordability and stability continues. So that's kind of the challenge, is there are first-time homebuyer education courses out there. So folks are trying to prepare for these things, and even when they do, it just gets increasingly out of reach with some of those additional fees, costs, maintenance pieces. With wildfire, we see homeowners insurance costs going up. So those are all definitely pieces of this puzzle.
Great. I would love to give that article if you wouldn't mind forwarding that to me. But you can imagine, these are the conversations I had in the last week. Maybe they read that article. Well, this is something really concerning, especially folks in the southern part of this county. And then, I'm really quick, I don't mean to monopolize this, but I'm wondering about, you say the Larimer's role is at supporting housing, countywide coordination. And I could talk about land use reform, but we won't go there right now because I want to give my colleagues a chance, but that's another, I just want to expand on that later. But countywide coordination, are you saying we're in charge of helping this coordination and convener, connector? Is this something that we are trying to, what does that look like? What are you saying that is? And because what I see is staff and money, and but also I see an opportunity to maybe bring everybody in the same room to partner. So I'm just wondering what that means.
Sure. So we have the ability to work with agencies who are often helping residents trying to find housing throughout the county. So some folks may be in Loveland now, but looking to relocate to Estes. Because we can build relationships throughout the county, we can help coordinate some of those moves and flexibility within the county.
Great. That's helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. We'll keep going then.
Commissioner, I might just add to that a little bit as a reminder that those goals were identified in our original Affordable Housing Needs Assessment done by Root Policy in 2021. And Lexi's answer is in response to how our Housing Partners of Larimer program specifically centralizes units and works with landlords and service providers across.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you for reminding of that, and I think that's a great point. I also, that I remember that housing needs assessment very well, because that was a really important conversation and kind of really thought-provoking, but boy, has our landscape changed, and so I'm glad we're doing these other assessments, but I appreciate you highlighting that, Aaliyah, thank you.
All right, we'll keep going then.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to the next slide, I do just want to highlight the term at risk in that first definition of property engagement. I don't love it, but there's not a lot of great synonyms for it, so we're going to work with it. So this next slide, before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of our program, is just to add a little bit more context surrounding living and working in Larimer County. So on the left, we have a yellow chart that has all of Larimer County's area median income. So just to briefly define area median income, if we took our lowest income earners up to our highest income earners, 100% of the area median income is right in the middle of those earners. And so we use that number oftentimes to determine eligibility for subsidized housing or for subsidized vouchers. And so I just want to bring that to the table. So this, though, what I like to highlight here, most folks who are eligible for vouchers are going to be at 60% of the area median income or lower. And so when we consider at risk, I don't want us to think of our residents as risky. They're simply at risk of losing housing because of affordability. And so the other thing that we like to kind of highlight on this is if they're at risk of losing their housing, who are we at risk of losing in our community? Our restaurant workers, our nurses, our social workers. So we just like to have this slide in here to remind ourselves, the community, that who we are is not just the income we earn, and deservedness is not just based on the income we earn. It's the value we bring to the community as neighbors. All right, so now we'll get a little bit more into the specifics of our program, Housing Partners of Larimer. I'm going to talk about our financial benefits first. So we have new member bonuses, and that's that first yellow bullet from $500 to $1,000. The goal of these signing bonuses, there's two bonuses there. One is for if you're new to renting to a voucher holder, or if you accept a Larimer County Community Justice Alternatives referral and house them. And so you'll get $1,000 for either one of those referrals. The reason that the voucher incentive is so important is because we want to attract new property owners to the voucher program. Again, you'll hear a little bit about some of the challenges within that program, and so this is a need for property owners as well in addressing that program and navigating it. And so we have $1,000 to attract them. We also offer $500 to property owners who will renew so that we can retain those property owners in supporting our voucher holder tenants. These are individuals and families who are housing and income ready. They are simply running into a barrier of either the rent is too high for their voucher or the rent is affordable for their voucher, but the utility allowance puts them over. And so we help navigate some of those conversations to provide that housing. Community Justice Alternatives referrals are in a very similar position. They may not have a voucher, but they have income that is fully able to cover their housing costs. They've been working toward re-entering into the community, and the one barrier they're running into is that background screening popping up. And so again, they're income and housing ready. They're ready to be good neighbors. So those are why we have such high bonuses on the front end for those. The next piece are holistic screening criteria. And so before we get into that, I just want to take a moment to mention fair housing. Fair housing requires consistency, and consistent screening requires all prospective tenants to establish their eligibility for housing by verifying that they can and will pay rent on time, care for the property, and be good neighbors. So when we offer bonuses for holistic screening criteria, most landlords are going to screen for those 4 bullets you see up there: a credit score, rental history and eviction history, background or criminal justice involvement, and then the last one for fair market rent is more about that income or that voucher piece, so making the rent reasonable or affordable for the household that's interested. And so what we ask is that if a tenant applies for one of our partners' units and they screen for all 4 of these things, and maybe the tenant has a low credit score, but by all other accounts can pay the rent on time, be a good neighbor, and care for the property, that you move forward with the tenant, and we will offer that bonus for reducing that criteria of having that credit score that may not meet it. Plus, those referrals come with the support of this program. So that's how we can continue to consistently look at tenants holistically, is by looking at their ability to do those things and considering the support of this program that comes with all of our referrals.
Can I ask a question about fair housing? So with fair housing, I mean, does that is that sort of racial background and more of those kind of elements, and not criminal background is not included in fair housing, is that right?
So with fair housing, you are allowed to deny felonies within the last 5 years, is my understanding. But we're asking that if there was something that popped up that doesn't indicate that they're going to not pay their rent or not take care of the property or not be a good neighbor, that you consider renting to them
Gotcha. Okay.
anyways.
Okay. But if something happened previous to 5 years, that would fall under fair housing then?
You should not be you should not be
Not be
denying.
disqualified or denied. Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. So those are all benefits that are paid upfront after the lease is signed to the property owner. On the back end, all of our tenant referrals are also going to come with a damage fund, as we call it, risk mitigation, damage funds, we kind of interchange it. Ultimately, all of our lease-ups come with up to $3,500 in risk mitigation funds if they need them. In other programs like this throughout the country, they are historically underutilized, but they're there, and they're there to protect the property owner. So we will assist with damages above and beyond normal wear and tear, and up to 1 month of vacancy loss if there's no notice on that. And so these are just assurances, again, that the property will be taken care of and that we have invested in that as well. The next benefit is our referral bonus. So there may be a question at the end about how we find our property partners, and they are sometimes tricky to find, and so that's where this bonus is a tool for us, is that if a good landlord knows another good landlord and they lease up with us, that first good landlord gets a bonus for getting them in touch with us so that we can work together. And then the administrative support funds, when it comes to languages that maybe we don't speak the same primary language, so interpretation is spoken word, translation is written word. So many landlords have opportunities to translate their documents and to serve those to their tenants in the language they are supposed to. But we got a little bit of feedback from our community members that they would love to have back and forth at the lease signing if they have tenants whose primary language is not the same as theirs. And so we will pay for interpretation at lease signing so that they can have that back and forth, make sure they're all on the same page, and move forward. And our last bit in there is the initial City of Fort Collins registration fee. We work closely with the City of Fort Collins to refer landlords to their registration program, and to support that. They also support us as well in spreading the word. So those are the financial benefits. We also offer landlord education, and ongoing resource support as well. So we have 4 formal education opportunities each year. We had one in March. It was called Spring Cleaning. We did energy efficiency rebates and then exterior property resources, so for water and air quality efficiency as well. We worked in March with that education event. We worked with the Larimer County Conservation Corps, Efficiency Works, who thankfully Efficiency Works bridges the gap between all of our city utilities and different cities and the rebates available within each municipality. We also worked with Resource Central and CSU Extension. We just wrapped up our July session, which was a housing legislative update, where we worked alongside NOCO Housing Now through the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce and Colorado Poverty Law Project to review the housing legislation that passed and to discuss the impacts that it may have on our community members. In September, we're looking forward to hosting Voucher Myth Busting, where we will demystify the voucher process alongside Housing Catalyst and other authorities. And we will also, when we have these events, we take the feedback of the owners that attend and we try to produce new systems and processes to make things easier as we move forward. So it's an opportunity to learn, and it's also an opportunity to share feedback. And our last one will be what is a continuum of care, where we'll just talk about, the regional approach to supporting our community members. The goal of these education series is to bring our owners in as partners in understanding their role in the rental housing community. So these are higher level conversations, but many of them want to have them, and so we want them to feel empowered. We also do landlord coffee chats. These are casual opportunities to connect with either other housing operators or myself if maybe they aren't ready to have a formal lunch or something like that. This year, we hosted agency partners along with us at those coffee chats. So in June, we hosted alongside Community Justice Alternatives. So it was great. We had the opportunity to ask what's the difference between parole and probation and just come with curiosity, right? And not have any tension on that. In July, we hosted with House of Neighborly Service in Loveland, and in August, we'll be hosting with Estes Park, the Estes Valley Investment in Childhood Success Family Resource Center. That is a mouthful. I've practiced it so many times, also known as EVICS. So it's, again, just an opportunity for them also to bring any landlord connections they may have to learn more about the program in a low-stakes environment. And then rental property resources are the last piece that I bring to support our property owners. So we identify and refer grant opportunities when there are some out there. I will be honest, there's not a lot of rental property grant opportunities out there. Many of them require owner occupancy. However, the City of Fort Collins does offer mini grants each summer, and so we work closely to understand the properties they're looking for and make good referrals. The Larimer County Conservation Corps has been an excellent resource because both tenants and landlords can schedule those assessments. I just got a new toilet this year from that program, so thank you. I just learned that the health department offers comprehensive smoke-free policy writing for property owners, so there's some owners that I'll be reaching out to share that resource with them. Many of them don't know that they can have a smoke-free policy until there's a challenge that has come up, so just trying to get ahead of those things. And then any energy efficiency rebates that we are made aware of, we will pass those along to our owners. So how do we do it? We take all of those financial benefits and resources and education series, and we support our property partners in feeling equipped to accept our tenant referrals. And all of our tenant referrals bring a team of wraparound services. So we offer the assurance of either rental assistance, the rent's going to get paid. Many of them have vouchers, and almost all of them will have a case manager as well. Not all individuals and families that come through our program require case management. So many of them will have that rental assistance piece. But ultimately, we bring tenants that are going to care for the property, pay their rent, and be good neighbors. All of our referred applicants work with the case manager to submit a cover letter. So this adds additional context to that holistic screening criteria ask that we have. And then we have work groups monthly, feedback opportunities, and dedicated support. And so we have lots of time, lots of opportunities to close loops, to better understand what's really happening so that we can put systems in place and develop those practices together alongside the owners that are providing the housing as well as the case managers that are supporting the tenants.
Commissioner Shannon McNally.
Thank you. I experienced this over the last week with older adults who might need technical assistance. I'm trying to coach them how to download an app so that I can transfer them some information and they could use that to navigate. And even looking at emails was such a challenge for a lot of these older adults. And even my own mother won't get the internet, so it's everything is an extra few steps. So my curiosity is, when you are referring applicants, I'm sure a lot of these folks are families and things, but there are a lot of older adults who are really struggling to find avenues to find housing or understand that. They may not even know where to look to come find support. So how does that look different? And are you able to kind of almost handhold and walk these folks through these applications because they can't maybe use apps or online service application areas or things like that? I'm just curious about that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner. I have a very soft spot for the aging population. So I've worked with Tiffany Ballou to understand some of the questions that they get at the Office on Aging related to housing. And you're right, there's some challenges with technology. So Erin and myself do not necessarily navigate those things. That we would refer them to a case manager that could help them through that application process. With that said, if there is a situation where we are asked to put on that hat, we will. We never want technology. We're trying to reduce as many barriers as we can, and we don't want technology to be one of them. But we do have partners in the community that do that work really well. So we do our best to get them connected to those partners so that we make sure they're getting the full resource packet, so to speak, as that they can.
Thank you for that. And I know, as I refer people to go back and watch this work session, that's a question that's going to come up for them. And so I'm also trying to have those questions asked for those, because I'm going to really refer a lot of folks to go back and watch this to understand what the county has been investing and expanding. So thank you for your answer. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner.
It's like Commissioner Falls has a question as well. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm wondering, with the conversation about technology and apps, are you familiar with an app that Human Services folks are using called My Friend Flicka? Oh no, Ben. Harkens back. Are you familiar with that, and how are you using it to help people who, certainly older adults and other folks who might not be as up on all the app technology?
Thank you, Commissioner. You have a housing resource guide in front of you, and we worked closely with Human Services to find out how those resources could be either connected to My Friend Ben or integrated. And so again, we, worked within our departments to make sure that our resources are reaching the right folks. Again, because they often call Human Services for those resources, and so we wanted to make sure we got them to the right folks.
So there are housing resources that are part of, my understanding is, and I've gone in there, instead of spending an hour with the peak application for Human Services related stuff, you can do things in less than 10 minutes, but it also provides information about that are in here.
Mm-hmm.
If I could, I would just add also that Heather O'Hare, our Human Services Director, gave a little bit of a shorter presentation than she had given here to the Board of County Commissioners to highlight what My Friend Ben is all about. And so across our service area, we have that heightened awareness about connecting in and knowing that things can be added very quickly with the foundation out of Denver that has provided this benefit for human services. And so we're keeping that awareness up to make sure, because we serve so many of the same populations across the service area, and there is that awareness, and we're building towards more of that.
So are housing resources included in the current version, the customizable version of My Friend Ben?
The resource guide has been given to Heather, and it links. So the individual resources won't come up in the report when you fill out the My Friend Ben application, but it will have a link to the resource guide as a whole so that you can see the available resources in Larimer County.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is maybe my favorite slide. Where are we? We've been successful in working with property owners throughout the county from Estes Park up to Wellington. We're eager for more, but we are excited to have a place in all of our major cities here in the county. So just to review, Housing Partners of Larimer bridges the gap between individuals and families who face barriers when securing housing, such as a low credit score, a prior eviction, or involvement in criminal justice, with landlords who are open to offering a second chance. In addition to those financial benefits, our team remains actively involved throughout the tenancy, provides ongoing support to our network of partners to ensure housing stability and success for all the parties involved. So who is in the network? The County of Larimer, I put us up top there because we kind of bridge, again, the gap between those service providers. So some of our service providers are up there, Family Housing Network, Department of Veteran Affairs, and then our property partners, who we do have one in the room here today, and I will invite Marcy up here to join us. So, Marcy, if you want to come on up.
Welcome, Marcy.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, and we'll just make sure that your mic is on when you speak. That little red dot has to appear, so.
Is it on now? Wonderful. I want to thank you all for what you're doing and for giving this the time and attention I think it needs. You know, it's not often you find a government that's willing to do something, you know. So her first question is, who is Nova Stella? Nova Stella is Chris and Anna Bissell, and a silent investor. Happens to be my son. I'm their facilitator. I facilitate them keeping their day jobs so that we can invest in properties like this. Previous to owning, we own the building at 840 North Lincoln. You might know it as the Salvation Army building down there in Loveland, okay? Previous to that, they had still have, three other condominiums throughout northern Colorado, one in Greeley, and two others here in Larimer County, okay? They bought this building to get into the multifamily kind of marketplace. But as you all, you've indicated, you well know, this is not a big for-profit enterprise. This building needed a lot of capital improvement, and that's what they've been working on. As far as the charity side goes, Anna worked for Bohemian Group. Okay, she found out from these people in the Murphy Center, Homeward Alliance. You know, that's how we've kind of connected, and with this property, it seems a good fit. She's also on the board of directors for Sound Effects, so charity is kind of in their DNA. And from their other rentals, you know, we've found that we'd rather avoid eviction than go through that cost and expense. Nobody wins. It's like a divorce. So they want to present a positive move towards the homeless crisis. They have definite needs themselves, though, to keep the rent low. And before this, we're only 3 months into this. We're new, okay? Before this, we bought this building fully rented, but our tenants did have issues, so we liked to work with them. But their other tenants and their other units had issues, and we come up with plans and stuff like this, but it's nice to have a fallback for these tenants that we can say here. Already, we've had to fall on to the Salvation Army, and they've helped pay for a month's rent for one of our tenants, you know. I think the advantage to what you're doing here is we have a resource in Lexi and these programs that I can make one phone call and say, hey, I have a tenant that needs help, or I have an open apartment, you know, here, let's start here. And she has been an awesome resource for that, okay? As far as the signing bonuses and things like that, they're not increasing our profit margin at all. We took these apartments, we have 3 studio apartments in this building and 1 2-bedroom apartment, and then 2 commercial units downstairs, okay? We took and installed little air conditioners. We also took over all utilities with that money, because the utilities become a problem for these tenants too. And you have your own utility issues that you're dealing with them. So we've put that money back into that, adjusted the rent to stay within your guidelines, and we're just taking all that over ourselves. Okay? So we've also done a huge amount of capital improvements because of the area down there. When we bought it was homeless central. Okay, and our property, along with the church and that hotel that's there, were just in a bad way. We put in new parking lot. We put in new sewer. Okay, we've upgraded all the apartments with paint. We're going to be working on flooring in the commercial units. We've worked with the Salvation Army for security in that area. And your police resources have been awesome. When we've had trespassers or sleepers and things like that, they've responded to us very well. And right now, we have very little issues with overnight cars camping on the property, things like that. So I think we've moved that away. The church has been responding. We have a nice relationship with Brian, who's the board of directors at the church there. He's called me when there's been issues, and I've been able to respond. I live in South Fort Collins, so I can get to the building quickly. The other thing, this is, I think, more beneficial in a small unit than a large corporate entity for your people, is that I was just telling Lexi, I'm kind of like grandma. They call and say, how do I get online for this? How do I get mail? And I'm there a couple times a week. And they know that they can call me and say, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And Chris and Anna like to respond personally. I recently retired from UC Health, and I'm working for them in this capacity for all their units. Okay? I think these people need that extra help and need the security, knowing they have somebody to talk to, and that the landlord's not going to just up and evict them, you know, on the first burp. Tenant support, do you have any other questions? Did I hit anything?
Thing, yeah.
Okay. Any questions from?
Thank you, Marcy. Any questions for Marcy? Commissioner
Yes.
Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Marcy. Actually, I'm very familiar with that building because I have, in the past, delivered Office on Aging advisory guards when we printed them there, and visited with the Salvation Army. I used to serve on, before I became commissioner, the Love and Human Services Commission, so we had done a lot of grants to them and things. And so we always like to go visit and see where, you know, where these opportunities are. Also, it was kind of in the back room, one of the first ever Housing First initiatives or grants and work, like 5-6 years ago when the Human Services Commission kind of did a first leap into doing that kind of work, which was really powerful. The transportation there is also kind of close, right? And a grocery store.
There's a bus stop in front of our building, a bus
Yeah.
stop in front of the church, and the transfer station is right on the corner by the grocery
Yeah.
store. So it is excellent for people. Some of our tenants don't have cars.
Yeah.
Or start with no cars, buy cars later. So it is an excellent location. So I understood that there was a push in Loveland to move the Salvation Army and that up towards the cemetery north there, but you're moving it away from the population that needs their help. And I understand that that was shot down and is not an issue anymore, but I think to have the resources available to them, plus the church is a resource for them. The Salvation Army gives out vouchers for hotels, which often goes to the one next door for people coming out of the hospital, and needing a little bit more housing assistance for just a few more days,
Yeah.
so.
It is but that's what I was thinking, because the grocery store and the public transportation and just kind of this unique situation of them being side by side. I didn't know the hotel was involved. And is the hotel kind of considered a short-term maybe?
I don't know
housing?
if the vouchers, personally, I don't know if the person has an option to go to a different hotel, but I know a lot of them do go over there.
Great.
We're working with Olga maybe to give her more space in the building, because she has more dreams about helping women, putting women's area in there, So that would be our other goal, is to kind of work with them so that she can facilitate those.
Well, I have to just say, it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very heartened to hear about your relationship with your son and your family to do this work. Just from my bottom of my heart, thank you for investing in this and working for this. This is not very many folks who are willing to.
Well, I've been on the other side of this.
Yeah.
I was an unwed teenage mother in the Air Force during Vietnam, and it was a time when they were going to kick you out. I lost all my benefits because I got a $35 pay increase. So I lost my housing and I lost my child care because of it. So it's like, now can we do something about it,
Very inspiring. I'm really grateful for your work, and just thank you for what you're doing. It's really great to hear about this. And when you said the location, I know exactly where that is. I've been
I'm
in that
sure. When we
building.
mention this building, when we call the police, they say the Salvation Army, or is that, well, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Cavalas, any questions or comments?
Thank you. And is your first name Marcy?
Marcy, yes.
Marcy. And I just want to make sure I understand. So the Nova Stella Properties, working with Chris and Anna, they are your,
Chris is the CEO, and Chris is Anna is the CFO.
and these are your kids?
My son is Chris, yes.
Yes, of course. Thank you. And I may have missed something, but so one of your investments is you purchased the Salvation Army building that's located in the 900 block of Lincoln Avenue. And I caught that there are 3 studio apartments, there's some commercial space downstairs. What's the total number of apartments? And
We have 4 apartments in that building. One qualifies as a 2-bedroom unit. Okay, currently, the ladies that manage the massage parlor downstairs rent that unit out, and the others are small studios. 2 are 250 square feet, and 1 is 445 square feet.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And I suppose my question is, and maybe this is a question for later discussion, and that is it sounds like your focus is on improving this particular building, making 4 apartments available for folks. Are you in a place to consider other buildings in the future that could be repurposed?
We would definitely entertain that. I mean, I could see that hotel becoming cute little studio apartments, But one of the issues, we just had a unit come available, and it was advertised on the housing, but the people that came, we only had one housing person come, and she was confused. She didn't have her paperwork. I said, okay, go get the paperwork, go get everything ready. She came through Zillow. On Zillow, we would have denied her, access, but she didn't come in time. And we got a Zillow person that can pay up front without the involvement of the housing authority. Okay, now, she's not rich by any means. She's borderline. She's got a job over in Greeley with JPL, okay? So this is the kind of tenant we're dealing with. They're on the edge. This one has moved up, so she doesn't need help. But if we can get this system to move a little bit faster, because, vacancies are money. We can't afford months, and for one of our tenants, we sat 3 weeks for an inspection, okay? You know, I'm here, I'm ready, I'll open that door and get you inspected, okay? But it's the different agencies that have to coordinate. And Lexi has been kicking butt, pulling it together and getting the people ready, getting our paperwork for us, you know, calling the other agencies.
So thank you, and I'm glad that Lexi is kicking butt, as you put it. I'm just, one final question, and then we have more in the presentation, and that is, unless I missed it again, how did you folks, how did what Erin and Lexi doing, how did you all connect in the beginning?
It was through the Homeward Alliance and the Murphy Center, and we were able to connect to Sabrina there.
Okay,
Sabrina, and she kind of put us in touch, and so we made some phone calls
Okay.
because we had a couple units available, and we thought this would be a good time to get that started.
understood. Thank you, colleagues.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marcy. Thanks for sharing your story, too. I was a single mom in my early 20s struggling, and so I think that I appreciate that informs your work now, because I think that's
It's important.
it is.
And as you said, the price of housing, you know, is forbidding for most
Oh,
people
my
around here.
gosh. Out of
Yeah.
control, out of control. And yeah, and so, we're trying to attack this, as you've heard through the presentation, from a lot of different angles.
You mentioned, you know, looking for other sites. I mean, we're always in the market for another site, but so often the single units are even unapproachable for us. You know, we can't get into another townhome or another condominium right now because we are priced out of the market, you know.
Right, yeah. Well, I appreciate the work that you're doing. Obviously, this is remarkable, and we thank you for working with our team and for, all the other providers around the community to do the work that you do. It's really
I
important.
appreciate your support of the system here.
Yeah.
And I can see from the conversations, it's only going to get better because they're dedicated to.
Do you have any advice for people who might be, maybe open to this, of, how, what your experience was, and would you, recommend it to other landlords, and,
I would, and I would recommend starting with Lexi as the go-to. And she has been willing to sit down with me, to talk with me, email back and forth when we had questions. You know, what's this for? What's that for? How's the process go? Laying it out for us. And a lot of times that's the concern of the landlord. I've got a vacant unit, or it's coming available. How do I get it filled as soon as possible? What can you guys do for me? What kind of tenants are right for my building? Our building is very small. The tenants are in close proximity, so we don't go for violent criminals or sexual predators or anything like that. We have to restrict, and a lot of our tenants are single women, so we try to look out for their safety too. So
Yeah.
she informed us that we could do those kind of things.
Good, yeah, right. You want to make sure that the people that are currently renting are safe, so that makes sense.
I loved your coffee things. I learned a lot on the first coffee thing that I came over to.
Oh, good.
So, it may seem like a nonsense thing, or it's not important, but I learned so much from that coffee meeting that it was very valuable.
Well, thank you for being an advocate in this space, and thank you for the just providing a service that a lot of people wouldn't think to do, right? I mean, a lot of people go into this business to make more money, or to, I just applaud you and your son and Anna for really embarking on this journey and thinking about, doing what's right and not just doing what's financially, beneficial.
Yeah, the goal when they purchased the building was not to flip it, it's, we're putting new windows in, we're putting, again, in the commercial side, new flooring and upgrades there, to make it a better appearance on the street. We upgraded the landscaping on the street. We took down the trees that were going to cause problems, And the building next door was owned by the church, the little house. And the owner of that worked with us, and he put a fence in. He's upgrading his building. He did a lot of remodeling on that, just to make the street look nicer.
Yeah. Well, pride in ownership. We can tell that you care about the work that you do. So thank you very much. Thanks for being here, and thanks for, working with our team, and really, really great to hear your story. And I think it's really great for community members to hear your story as well, because there's people that might not maybe find it quite as scary if you have somebody to work with you.
Yeah, and we're certainly willing to talk about our experience to other owners, so we put ourselves out there. I'm available to talk to them about what our experience has been and how to resolve any issues if they want to find an owner's perspective.
Wonderful. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll let you be on your way, but you're welcome to stay for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. All right, Lexi. Well, kudos to you too, Lexi, that you got we really appreciate it. It was really great. Thank you for bringing Marcy in.
Well, I truly can't do it without our property partners, so it's important that they're here. I'm going to turn it over to Aaliyah now to introduce some of the roles we play with Community Justice Alternatives and also our guest from Community Justice Alternatives.
Thank you. I'll second that Lexi's kicking butt. Thank you, Lexi. As you've learned, there really are two sides to this program. Lexi leads our relationships with our property owners so they can be partners and feel empowered to be part of the solution. And then the other side of this, Erin leads, which is our partnerships with our service providers. So they are the agencies bringing tenants to this program, who have case managers and are housing ready, like Lexi said, to be good neighbors. As you all know, I'm an objective lead for our Larimer County Strategic Plan for Goal 3, Objective 3, which is to inventory and define best practices for reentry housing options for justice-involved residents. So that's how we started looking at the Housing Partners of Larimer program from a reentry lens. We said, how can we use this program that we already have to meet this strategic goal that the county is working on? And that's when we started having deeper conversations with Community Justice Alternatives. We had a working group that included county staff and community members looking at where are the gaps when it comes to housing. And that's how we created that special incentive that Lexi talked about earlier, when Community Justice Alternatives has someone they're looking to house, and we find a landlord that will accept that tenant regardless of their background check or what comes on that, because of the support that CJA is providing. So I'll just kind of leave that at that, and thank you so much, Mindy, for joining us today. And if you could just kind of talk about how the relationship is going with our program, Mindy Walker.
Red buttons on. Okay. Hi, my name is Mindy Walker. I'm a supervisor at Community Corrections with Community Justice Services. And this partnership and relationship has really helped us identify and connect landlords with individuals that are justice involved. Oftentimes, people that live in the halfway house are transitioning out, looking for a place. We create a space for them to find employment, build a savings, get back on their feet, and sometimes they have a large savings that they can go move into the community, but they have other barriers that keep them from finding a place to live. Especially people who are maybe moving on their own. They don't have a family to go back and live with, but they're renting for the first time, or they have the background check or the credit score that creates barriers for them. So what the program's done for us is reduce the stigma by educating the housing providers. The coffee chat that we had with Marcy was a lot of my team that was able to talk about the people that we're talking about, not just our justice involved, but who are they and what do they do, and what challenges do they have. It strengthens the housing navigation through the portal, where our case managers can find housing and landlords that are connected and are willing to make these contingencies, and give those people a second chance that have the money, are ready to be good neighbors, I think is the way you said it, and want to be in the community. The other part of this is oftentimes is that they get no's a lot just from that background. And so it's really, really helpful to have somebody give them a chance. We also have continued case management, or a client might be on parole or probation after. And what that allows us to give to the landlord is a sense of follow-up, maybe someone you can call if you're having an issue, or maybe even if they lose their job, we can talk to them ahead of time. We also do home visits, so we're in the building in there, but would be able to see some things before the landlord might be able to see them. I don't know if we've rented anybody yet.
We have.
Oh, we have. Success soon. We've been working really hard on finding those openings and working through that. I think the longer it goes, we will be able to start looking for housing earlier now and hopefully connect our clients with landlords sooner.
Thanks, Mindy. I think that's, unless there's anything else you want to share.
Any questions for Mindy? Commissioner Shattuck McMillan and Commissioner Falls.
We are getting a lot of, and thank you for your work, thanks for being here. We're getting, and I'll just really brief, and this is a parking lot question. I serve on the Behavioral Health Policy Council and also the Regional Opioid Abatement Council as vice chair and chair of the other. And we're getting a lot of requests from housing for co-housing for groups, and we have a little bit of some concerns about some folks in a home that's new into the community. There's been some interesting posts from other electeds online that are maybe not well informed to what really is the opportunities or the data that's there. But there seems, so my question is, because that's just kind of the context of why I'm asking, because again, this is a lot of conversations that I've been getting asked last week. Is there a lot of peer-to-peer aspects to that for helping with folks going into that housing? Does location for some of these folks to be near transportation or near where they can access some of those wraparound services or peer-to-peer, is that something that is part of this, or something that's important to think strategically as you're helping folks find housing that maybe supports their road to recovery and to the processing and programs that you all offer? Sorry, it's a long question, but I think you know what I'm asking.
I do know what you're asking, and I know I'm attending a open house this week, I believe, for that home that you're talking about. And so peer-to-peer, there's lots of different ways that looks in the community. Sometimes that's a sober living environment where everybody has the same goal of being sober, and it's ran, those are still run by corporations or landlords or people. They're not usually ran by the criminal justice system, although we do appreciate them because they have some accountability within their homes. I think it's, you had a lot of questions in there, but access to transportation, access to peer groups does help with success. Accountability within a home, in a sober living specifically, there's some rules in that they have to be sober, they have to be accountable to the people that they live with, or they are not allowed to live there. So that does help everyone's success in that way.
I know, I apologize, a lot of questions there, but I've been asked a lot of questions over the week. But I think you did answer my question, so thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner, do you have questions? Okay, please go ahead. We'll have a few.
Thank you. Thank you, Mindy. How does it work when someone who is transitioning out of the criminal justice system through corrections is on parole? I seem to recall when we had our roundtable a month or so ago, and there was the participant panel. I thought there was one fellow who was really excited about having identified a place to live, and now I better understand it was probably through the efforts of what we're talking about here. But I thought he mentioned that the parole board or something like that had to approve it. Am I misunderstanding or misremembering? And if I'm not, how does that work? And does that delay the process a lot?
Parole does have to approve a living situation for a client who's coming out of the Department of Corrections to parole. Oftentimes what they're approving is the people in the home or in the living situation, more than the physical location. They're verifying that there's a physical location. Yes, this is a home they're living in, but more it's probably going to be about who's living there with them, or the surrounding area, potential protection orders, or other people who might have charges that they don't want them living with, or that might be high risk. So they are going to approve it, but I think generally what they're approving is the other occupants of the home.
And of course, in this case, the person had been, or was involved, or is involved with our community corrections, but they came out of DOC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And does that delay the process, or do?
That transition
Approval.
for anybody in our halfway house starts at the beginning. When they first come from the Department of Corrections, they're going to provide a possible address, or say, I don't have one. That possible address, they call it an investigation, where they'd be looking into those places. They'd start that from the beginning, and a parole officer would be assigned to it, and they physically go to the home, and they physically do some things. If they don't have an address, once they gained one, then that's when that process would start.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's fine. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mindy, for being here. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I don't think I have any questions for you, but I just really like the intersection between community justice alternatives and our housing program, because we know that this definitely is a gap and that people are trying to come back out into the community, and you guys have helped them all through community corrections, of how to get those skills to be successful and back as they reintegrate into the community. And so, but then they find this, there's no place to live. And so it's a real gap that I'm glad we're addressing. So really, to have both departments cooperating in this space is really important. Thank you. All right, Aaliyah, we'll let you finish your last few slides then.
Okay, these last ones are pretty fast, just some data and statistics. So we did launch our website last August 2024. We have had, I put the page views, site visitors, unique visits up there, but ultimately we've had quite an influx of visitors to our site. I will say tenant resources and unhoused resources tend to be our most clicked pages. We also launched our newsletter in March of this year, March 2025, and that really is meant to share resources, community partnerships, opportunities for tenants and landlords, and local housing happenings. We have sent 2 this year. We have 115 subscribers as of July, and we have a 65% open rate, which according to MailChimp is pretty good, so we'll take it. We also created our inaugural Housing Resource Guide, which is in front of you. This is really a Housing 101 guidebook, so to speak. So it does take a little bit more nuance to go through it, but it's really, we envisioned it as a tool for our case managers to support community members that may not know where to start. So this is a great place for them to start. We will distribute this annually and update regularly and update digital resources as often as we can. Okay, just a few more statistics here to round us out. We do have 12 local landlords or managers who have signed our partner agreement. We have 36 properties and 75 units, so keeping in mind some of those properties, like Marcy's, have more than 1 unit, so it's 1 property, but it has 4 units. So 36 properties, 75 units. We have 6 tenant lease-ups so far. We do have 1 more in the works right now, but I'm not going to count it till the lease is signed. We have hosted 9 landlord education events since this program began, including those formal events and those coffee chats. And this year, we have outreached over 75 unique landlords or property managers through newsletters, word of mouth, and association presentations. On the right there, you'll see some of the association presentations we've been to: Northern Colorado Rental Housing Association, National Association of Residential Property Managers, Fort Collins Area Board of Realtors. We presented to Housing Catalyst as we work closely with them to support landlords and voucher holders. St. Vincent de Paul. We presented to a nationwide centralized engagement work group, so they were able to give us feedback outside of our lens here in Larimer County. And then there's a couple small local landlords that have their own group that we presented at. On the resource side of things, we have distributed 198 of our resource guides. 120 of those have been distributed in English and 78 in Spanish. We have 9 partner agencies that have onboarded. Our resource specialist has shared 25 plus resources, either via phone or email, since April. We've hosted 10 landlord engagement work groups since this work began. And Erin put together a mobile home park resource fair earlier this year. And there's some statistics on the right on that as well. 35 resource bags were successfully distributed to all of the homes. It was a collaboration between City of Fort Collins, Larimer County staff, and then the resident leaders. And then there were bilingual staff present at all the tables, and when there weren't staff, then interpretation services were provided there as well. Commissioner Stevens already asked, but just a refresher on how to get involved if you're interested is to, kind of like Marcy said, the easiest way is really to just contact me. I'll meet you wherever you are. If you want to chat over email or meet for coffee or have a phone call, it's really, I'm there to support any property owners that want to get involved. They discover the benefits, they join our network, they list their units, they lease up, they get benefits, and then we continue to do this important work together from there. Thank you all for your time this morning.
Thank you, Lexi. Any questions or final comments? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
I want to thank Aaliyah, Marcy, Aaron. Can you turn your mic on? Thank you. It's Monday. I'm going to get it rolling here, but I have been rolling. I just want to thank, Aaliyah, Lexi, and Aaron. You're back there, but you haven't got to talk, so I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you for being here. Also, Laura Walker for kind of shepherding all this group as we go forward. And I'm drawing a blank. It's this wonderful woman, Marcy. Thank you. Sorry. I've seen a lot of people over the last few days at the Fair and Rodeo. We served 2,000 people at breakfast on Sunday. It's been a lot of people. She said that it's very unique. I think this is kind of unique. I think regionally, if not statewide, and I appreciate the partnerships and kind of navigating this as we go. There is a lot of what I believe are productive partnerships, what I call them. There's a win-win for everyone. And I appreciate that because we're in this together and it's going to take everyone to work together. I want to thank you for presenting this. I might have more questions. I know we're almost out of time. And certainly wondering, I guess, one question before I make another expression of gratitude. Crystal ball or magic wand, or I don't know, and I think I know the answer to this. What do you see is the next 5 years? What would help us sustain some of this effort and appropriately meet the needs, which I'm not sure we could ever meet all the needs that are going on right now, but to meet kind of the most urgent needs for our community as a county as going forward?
Man, it's hard to answer that without saying more money. But ultimately, you heard from Marcy, those signing bonuses are attractive and helpful, but their margins are still thin. And so, ideally, I would love to see more opportunities for rental property upkeep and maintenance that aren't tied to the owner occupying it, so that the owners don't have to pass those costs of repairs down to their tenants, so that they can keep rent low. I think, continuing to build out our education is going to be a really key piece. And part of that is bringing our landlords in to help. I'm not a landlord. They're the experts. And so building out our education based on what the community tells us they need. Those are sort of the two things for me are always just more funds and more education. But I know a limited bucket of funding, we will always do what we can to support the partners we have and the tenants as well.
Thank you for that. And yeah, that's why I figured the big thing was money, but also I did think that you might say education because I think it does help with that. And maybe some of our philanthropic partners throughout the region might see something that's working and maybe want to invest. But again, I just want to say thank you. Really great to meet you all and appreciate the work and the presentation today. Certainly we'll have more questions. I'd like to kind of digest this a little bit, but this is pretty cool. Some pretty cool stuff. So thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cavallis.
Why don't you go next, and with whatever time is left, I have about half a dozen questions, but maybe I can,
well,
I can
probably
present
not.
them and we can do a follow-up
There you
conversation.
go. Yeah, well, thank you, Lexi. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you, Aaron and Marcy, Mindy, Laura Walker, certainly, and Amy Martonis, who's here in the background. the connection between, the intersection between, mental health and behavioral health and housing and financial stability there's definitely a connection there. And so, we really need to kind of see all these things interconnected. And that's why I love that community corrections is involved as well, because, we don't do this work in a silo. And so appreciate you all being here. My one question was, when you're talking about the presentations that you're doing, are you, so you have the coffees and then you have the more formal presentations. Are you seeing quite a few new people coming into that program? Are you, how well attended are they? Do you feel like they've been successful? You're obviously continuing them, so they must be somewhat successful.
Yes, we'd love to see more attendance, but we also acknowledge that each landlord is interested in different things, they may not need energy efficiency rebates. They may already know what they have, or they may already be energy efficient, right? And so that's where some of that feedback is really helpful in developing those ongoing education series. I think that, I'm sorry, could you repeat? I just blanked also. Do you mind?
No, just, what attendance is like and the success and sort of, are you seeing new people come into it?
Yep. Sorry, thank you. That was the last piece, was that we do see new folks come. I will say most of our referrals come through our service provider agencies like Marcy, because they're already working with a trusted agency and they understand some of the nuance of working with our tenant referrals already. However, it takes time. I've had partners owners, landlords that I reached out to over a year ago that are just now calling me and saying, hey, I kind of am interested now. And so a little bit, they want to see success, right? They want to see it work. And so, yeah, we're always developing the education to attract more, because we don't want to just put information out there that they already have. But part of that is getting that feedback too. So we do feel it's well attended, but could always be better.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks again for this program. Thank you, Aaliyah and Laura, for your leadership in this space. When you have limited dollars to be able to devote, it's really good to see that we're working on a program that I think is really showing its success, and really helping people get through some of the barriers they might feel about, renting to certain folks in our community. So keep up the good work and let us know how we can continue to help. Commissioner Kafalis, I'll give you the last few minutes, and at least you can pose your questions.
And also to express my gratitude, thank you for the partnerships and for working together on a very complex issue. I appreciate that our Behavioral Health Services Director is present. As Commissioner Stevens commented, there's a rather significant nexus between housing stability and how folks are feeling and whether they're anxious and paycheck to paycheck and all of that. So thank you. My questions, are you ready to write them down? Well, and actually, Kristen or Commissioner Stevens already offered one, and that was regarding these casual coffee chats. I think you've answered that, but I'm curious how we actually advertise that. It sounds like through the referring agencies and networks, but I wonder if there are thoughts on how that might be expanded. My next question still goes back to the Prop 123. How many dollars are available? And actually, maybe a reminder, what is the formula for distributing those funds? Is it based on applications or people meeting the thresholds? I'm curious what the current home ownership rental rates are. 65% of folks own their homes, 35% are renting, or whatever it is these days, and maybe that'll come out of the assessment thing. And related to the rental side of it, what are the current percentages as far as rent burdened? How many renters are paying 30% or more? How many renters are severely or seriously burdened, paying 50% or more? May I continue? I still have a minute.
Sure. I mean, they're writing furiously.
Yes, I want to exercise their car. Yes. Regarding the homelessness report that we've been working on with Homeward Alliance, I believe that we'll see the report or a draft or something by September, so I'm curious about that. And even with regard to the housing assessment that you mentioned in the beginning, Aaliyah, what is the timeline for that? It seems like we have to have a plan by the end of next year, but is this thing going to take a year and a half? I didn't think so. So maybe that one. I'm almost there, colleagues. And I think you've spoken to this, but how are we recruiting all manner of property owners, landlords? I think I've discussed this with Aaliyah and perhaps Laura. I've had conversations with people that are maybe not part of property management, are not like Marcy, but they actually want to do the right thing. It's an older couple, they own their house, they happen to own a second house, and they want to rent it, not to make money necessarily. Well, they want to make money, of course, but below market rate. So how do we reach those folks, or even like my sister-in-law who bought a house in Loveland and wanted it to, through the property manager, make it available to folks below market rent? How are we addressing the needs of persons with disabilities? I appreciate that Commissioner Shattuck McNally brought up the demographic of older adults, and what are we doing to help people age in place? Bonus incentives, referral bonus, all that sounds great. Where's that money coming from, and is it sustainable? Or is it just for the next couple of years we have enough? Oh, the matter of repurposing buildings. I know we've had this conversation before, but how realistic is it to do an inventory of commercial buildings and determine what might be realistic for actually repurposing? My time is up. I want to respect that, so
All right, well,
I'm
did you
done.
have any, okay, it sounds
that's
like
enough.
sounds like you might come back for a visit maybe at some point to answer some further questions, but thank you, Commissioner, for all those
You're
questions.
welcome.
Laura, I'll leave you with the last word.
Thank you.
Just wanted to thank everyone for their time and attention and the ongoing support that we always get from our county commissioners for the work that gets done in my service area, especially housing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, it's 11:31 and we're adjourned. We got through a lot and we have more questions to be answered, so thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.